Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic,
and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Black book is in
black.
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. As always, I'd like to see your blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we are joined by, we got 4 people up today. So welcome to Black Men Can Talk, which is a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. So welcome Kofi Sadat, Kofi Morris, and Jonathan Juiceman Shaw. What is going on?
Bless.
We're blessed.
Good to hear. So are we all overcoming Snowmageddon?
Oh, bro.
No.
Bro. Listen, I heard rumors that a man's beard froze up to the. I'm afraid for that, bro. I had this little thing hanging down here. That'd be my whole chin.
No, man. I felt like Sanka in Cool Runnings when they went to Alberta.
You did.
Like it was, and I just looked outside to see, how my work was. It listen. It felt like the Sahara Desert, man. Like the wind blew away any semblance of any work that I did, and I'm just like, man.
Yeah.
It went for naught, but I know I did it. I did like almost 3,000 steps just cleaning the driveway.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I had called Juiceman this afternoon. I hadn't looked outside, and he said, "Get ready." And he said, "The only thing that will get you through it is the ancestors." That's the only thing.
Pretty much. Like just basically say to yourself, your ancestors went through worse. Your ancestors.
That's it.
This is
100%. No, for me, I don't know if I've ever. My side door, I had to push open my side door. There was so much snow there. I went, what? The only thing good about the snow today, it's light snow. If it was heavy snow, no.
Listen,
you know where you're at when, you open your car door to clean off your car and the snow falls off and you're just like, yeah, like you're giving thanks, so we reach a certain point in life in Canada. The standards have, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just saying, the light snow right now, a lot of the men them today are like, geez, thanks. We talk about ancestors right now. We're like, the Harriet, just keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing for us.
I got a bittersweet kind of thing because I got a bad back, so I was spared from clearing any snow today. So the younger,
you got away.
The younger stepped in really well, but bro, I felt sorry when I looked outside. I'm like, man, nah.
And you didn't feel a deep feeling of loss inside your heart for not being part of the experience. None of that happened.
It was burning in my chest, but I think it was the Milo I was drinking as I was watching.
Juice Man, you must have been on Juice Man and my conversation. He said, "Make sure you have some Milo."
This is it. But that Milo was burning my chest. I was like, "Oh, I'm really feeling it."
Jeez. All right. So before we go to break,
don't forget this.
Yes.
The Vic.
Rock with that.
For your foot bottom when you come back in.
So let's quickly go around the table here. What's one win you've had over the past week, big or small?
We'll make the Juice go first, man. He's the guest that's blessed. Go ahead, Juice. Don't think about the snow, man. Don't think
I can't. That's a problem. That's a problem. Like whatever win I had, it evaporated when I went outside and I looked outside. I'm just like,
Okay, you know what, Juice? I'm gonna suggest one
Mm.
for you. Okay.
Hey, if his last name was McCarthy, no, that's not a win.
No,
No.
no football here. But
Okay.
for those who may not know, Jonathan hosts a live talk show from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Sunday mornings on Flow 98.7. And he had an incredible conversation with many people today where he provided a safe and brave space for people to exhale.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a huge win.
Yo, you know what? I want to big up. I wasn't sure it was you, family. I recognized the voice, but I think you did a show on sleeping, like with the sleep doctors and stuff. Was that you?
Yes. Yeah, we did that. We did.
Yo,
Yes.
I totally love that show. So there's a win for you as well, because I was like, yo, that sounds like the juice, and I love the conversation. Totally, I loved it, bro. So thank you for that as well. You know, giving thanks.
Yeah.
I think the biggest win for the week, now that I'm thinking about it, I live to see my daughter turn 19.
Bless.
Probably the best win. My relationship with her presently, I won't say is the greatest. I'd be lying if I did. But I'm doing the same thing we did 19 years ago on the Sunday that she was born. And that is sit down and watch the AFC and the NFC championship games. And at that time, 2 black coaches got to go to the Super Bowl for the first time. And back then, Tony Dungy went out. But, for his one and only Super Bowl. But for me, 19 years ago, that was probably one of the greatest things that have happened, is to, see another one of your children come into the world. At that time, I thought that was it. I thought that was my last one, but I had a son many years later, and I'm blessed to have 3 beautiful children.
There you go. See, just a little reflection makes things get bigger. All right.
Honestly, that snow outside, just like when you seriously.
I hear you, King.
All right, Kofi Morris.
I'm gonna go with some connections in community with some brothers, actually, that started out as a conversation around music and ended up as the creation of a movement. So I've been doing some work with fathers, for the last while in the community, just pre-COVID, through a community organization that started physically meeting on Saturdays, and it became an online conversation that has continued. So we're a good, under 10 years in now. But we had a conversation that led to the creation of something that's going to be launched in the community, but a part of it has to do with the reality of fathers that don't live with their children. So funny enough, what Jonathan just mentioned, and creating something that is somewhat of a collective agreement around what co-parenting looks like. So that seed has been planted, but just a vibrant conversation around vulnerability and the things that fathers work through, and being able to support one another in cohesion around how we look at this thing called co-parenting, and principles for fathers of children. So that's a win that I'll share.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
that's a result of persistence and perseverance, because that group's been going on for a while, hasn't it?
100%. Yeah, it passed over many hands and what have you. We just continue to keep the foundation and keep the spirit of it alive and going. So
excellent.
Stay tuned.
All right, Kofi Sadat, win.
All right, I got 2 wins today. One, we did a graduation for a group of young boys in the northwest of the city. We've been working with in the one of the schools up there. It's been a 10-week program where they kind of learn about culture, identity, and kind of just coming together as young men. Majority of them are young black men, but we do have some folks that are from Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. So it's a good mix, but mainly young black boys. So I want to kind of hail them up. for their graduation. It was great to see them take pride in accomplishing a goal, which is to finish the program. They got to learn about their goals, or stuff like that. So it's good. So I want to big up the Yen Sumo Umoja program, big it up. And the second win has to do with tonight. Like I said, my sons were out there shoveling the snow, and a neighbor came by with a snow blower and helped them out. But she also said, you know what? I recognize there's a lot of elders that are on our block, which is true. We have a kind of block where people have been living here 20, 30, 40 years. So she went around and helped a lot of those elders. So I want to kind of, see that as a win and recognize that, community's there, man. Neighbor's still there. So kind of hail her up. I don't know who she was. My son was just telling me, but I want to kind of hail up that energy. So those are my wins. So what about you, Dr. Vibe?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. A lot of them to share this week, but a partnership that I had during the year with a business associate. That person now wants to renew it and go deeper with the partnership, and it's a person who owns a Black business, which is wonderful. It's a lady that owns a Black business. So in the fact that she asked me if I could help with her with some things on top of what I already was, and then she says, you know what, do you offer this and this? I go, yeah. So everything being right, within the next few weeks, we're gonna announce you'll see on somewhat platforms, a partnership with myself and this lady who runs this business that is just fantastic. And it's nice working with a Black woman business owner. So it's nice. I'm a Black man business owner. She's a Black woman business owner. And the funny thing is, when we got on the call last week, she said, I want to introduce you to my husband. And I go, oh, I know him. And so it was a wonderful haha moment, and looking forward to and it also will serve our people
nice
on top of it, most importantly. So I want to make so her and I are going to win, but most importantly also our people will win, also showing that Black men and Black women can work together.
Beautiful. Love it, brother.
So what we're going to do is go to a break, and when we come back, we'll do some quick housekeeping. Then we've got a really good conversation topic as always. So we will be back in 15 seconds.
Check out The Morning Vibe on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern.
It's hosted by Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight.
They dig into important subjects.
And sometimes they bring on people you definitely need to know about.
It's conversations that matter.
So make sure you tune in.
Mondays and Fridays, 9 a.m. Eastern.
We'll see you.
All right, so that's tomorrow morning, since we're broadcasting live on a Sunday. So let's make it quick. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit the notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on the platforms I'm a part of, email me, dr.vibe, the dr, vibeshow.com. And then if you got a question or take, go to callme.road.com. Put in your deets. You'll be taken to another screen. Put in your name, hit the green button, and you're good to go. All right, today we are having a conversation about a really interesting segment from the CBC Fifth Estate show called Missing Black Boys, which basically is showing how a number of Black boys in the Greater Toronto area are being transported to far areas away to deal with drugs, sell drugs, etc., etc. Everyone here has watched the documentary or the segment. So I'm going to pull out my first conversation. Well, first, you know what? Let me just pull out the first conversation piece. So I'll put this for you guys. How did each of you feel watching it for the first time?
Watching it for the first time, I mean, I've been aware of some of the reasons why our boys are missing. So, I mean, it wasn't surprising, but what I did enjoy about it really was the segment, with the father that was looking for his son. Because I think that's often an aspect that we don't see. Right, we see a lot of our mothers and females and aunties out there, so it was good to see, that a father was being proactive in looking for his son. So I thought it was done well. I mean, you know, it was short, so there's a lot of things probably that they couldn't delve into. But yeah, it was good to see that, you know, it's getting some light, which it needs to. It's a serious topic.
Juice Man, Kofi Morris.
I'll go next. One of the things that for me stood out when I watched it was the area of Thunder Bay. Seeing as though I used to work for an indigenous radio station, Thunder Bay is a place where a lot of indigenous people are from. So I know the area very well from what people who live in that area have said about it. Plus, back in 2018, I was up in that area. I was actually in Wawa, Ontario. And there's nobody who looks like us up there. Not at all. So taking a black child out in that area, they would stand out like a sore thumb. How nobody reports it, how nobody says anything about it while they're up there, that kind of really took me. But I also realized that up in that area, and not to take the conversation too far before we delve into it, they lock up things like mouthwash because it has alcohol in it. Children they get high off of exhaust fumes. They call it huffing.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. So drugs is a major concern in the indigenous community up in Thunder Bay. So to see young black boys getting into, you know, selling drugs and whatever the case may be, I mean, yeah, they would be like a sore thumb out there because they would stand out. But on top of that, it kind of reinforces that stereotype that all we are drug dealers. And if you have people from up there coming back down to Toronto for the first time and seeing black people where we normally are in and not up in, you know, Duck Dynasty land, whatever, you know, I mean, it's a whole different thing. Because when you're up there, the only thing to do up there is hunt, to fish, to ride your four-wheeler, right? And all the other sort of stuff. There's not a lot of stuff for children or anybody to do. It's not appealing. It's not appealing. And I don't want to talk about an area like that, but that's kind of what I know of the area, and being out there, like as a black person, there's really not a lot of stuff to do. It's picturesque, it's beautiful, but it's not the big smoke. It's not something that would appeal to young 13-year-old boys or 14-year-old boys. So why there? It's just to sell drugs. And that part for me was like, wow, like it really kind of made me think differently.
Before Kofi Morris, you jump in, got some comments here from at DMW Lake saying it was good to see the father being proactive, but as a black father myself, I saw some very serious questions that were avoided. And then also, we can't be naive either. Boys are going OT to Western Canada also.
Yeah.
So definitely.
But the thing is, you can see people going out west to places like, let's say, Vancouver. You can see them going out to like a Calgary and Alberta, but I'm talking like Thunder Bay. You know, it's like I don't know what's being said to the young boys, but again, as I'm saying to you, like I have a son who's 13. If I were to say to him, "Hey, let's go to Thunder Bay," he's like, "For what?"
True.
Kofi Morris.
So a couple things for me. It hits hard. It hits hard in a sense, because a lot of the young men and brothers who I grew up with and things like that, These kind of things, it wasn't looked at in the same lens, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's necessarily changed either. But I think one of the realities for me in watching it is just a reminder that opportunities, if they're not available to you, you'll create them. And the reality is a lot of these, both older heads and younger heads that are being used in this situation are looking for opportunity. One may be different than the other. One may be brotherhood. One may be a father. One may be somebody who's wiser than me that could guide me and show me the way of life and what to do and how to navigate and all of that. But and the other one is a little bit more advantageous of the young person, but that's not new. Unfortunately, that's not new. Both being used in our community and externally. But the reality of it is breaking it down, being able to see the levels to which it's operating right now. I think it hurts, bro, because I feel like because of us who do work with men and with boys, as Sadat shared, the graduation of these things, we're on the inside doing the work, but then also seeing the pain and the frustration and the parents hurting and all of that stuff, right? That's happening. And it's like, where the hell are the men, yo? Like, where are the father figures? Where are the men who you may not have your own children, your sons or whatever? So like, what are you doing? How do you see yourself relative to all of this? I don't like watching these things, to be honest with you, because my issue is, what are we doing? I feel like when other people come in, and they've always been doing this, Europeans come in and basically actually capitalize on a situation that's harming us, and then it gets some kind of polls, it gets some kind of numbers, it gets viewers, right? I'll tell you this, when I saw that it's being aired as a community conversation, it burned me. Let me tell you why it burned me. Because I feel as though another group of people are going to sit down and what's the word I'm looking for? And look at us under this microscope of CBC and feel like they're specialists on what the fuck's going on in our community as relates to our young men. And then they're going to walk away, oh man, it's so da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and they're going to go out Tim Hortons and drive home. They're going to grab a Starbucks and drive home, right? And that's internally and externally because we're removed from these things that are happening in our community. So it vexes me, bro. I don't know. Say again?
Or they're going to play savior.
So I feel like it's just an unhealthy situation. And again, if we're not doing something collectively about it as brothers, it's a moot point for me. It's ripping off of a bandage to see how much I'm bleeding. And at the end of the day, all that's going to be done is somebody being exposed to my wound. So it's bittersweet for me in a sense. And the sweet part is very little, simply because people now know what's going on. And the reality within our community in some cases is that if there's resources thrown at it, does it mean that it's going to impact gun violence? Does it mean it's going to impact drugs? Does it mean it's going to impact the things that give courts money, that gives judges money, that give lawyers money, that fund police's summer home, that all of that stuff? Is any of that going to be addressed by this? I'm sorry, it's not. Right? A lot of these issues have to be addressed within our communities and asking some very hard questions that the CBC has nothing to do with. So, and it's no disrespect to the CBC or anybody who's covering this. It's just an age-old situation and conversation in our community. I want to pick apart, and this is what we're going to do tonight's show, the roots of some of this stuff, right? And the fact that stuff has to stop becoming sexy because other people are putting lenses on it. But unfortunately, that's what gets us to talk about shit, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Kofi, can I jump on that for a minute and just piggyback? Now, Kofi, you said something that's going to get me really upset. And it's something that I feel as a man, I'm not allowed to do. And that is, I have to continually fight for my children to be seen as human beings every single MF day in a school. I remember being with my son this summer, and his grade 7 teacher saw me DJing basically and said to me, okay, well, your son's going into grade 8, but I was not allowed to be at that meeting you had with his grade 8 teacher. Now, his teacher was black. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, they did not allow me to be there. They had a meeting where I could have given some information with regard to your son in that meeting to your son and his mother, but they brought the guidance counselor there. And my son's not a bad kid, but he has some issues when it comes to the school. And there's a lot of black children now who are coming home telling their parents that, hey, I'm not being seen in the school the way I should be, right? Anytime I get a phone call from the school, it's because my son does something bad. And I said, well, couldn't you tell me when my son does something good? Is there a problem with that? If my son leaves the classroom for whatever reason, how come you're not telling me these things? And the teacher basically said that she wasn't allowed to be at that meeting, and everything now is about seniority. So if you're a black teacher at a school and you want to do something for the students, what this school will do is they will bring in another teacher from another school who has more seniority than you do and get you out. So you don't really help the children, so that it's really a weird situation that's happening, where that they just keep putting children ahead. They don't keep them back. They don't keep children. They don't do detentions anymore. They don't do these things to help children to learn, to foster education. They just keep pushing kids through the system. Kids don't feel heard, and then they don't feel like they should talk to anybody, because again, the people in the school that can help them, every year they get taken out. When Josh was in grade 5, his teacher, he had the first black male teacher, and he wore the one God symbol around his neck. And the teacher looked at that and said, hey, I like that, whatever. And they had a great bond with the teacher. End of the year, teacher's gone. Grade 7 has another black teacher, starts bonding with the teacher. Teacher takes a little bit of a break, had some health issues, whatever, comes back to the school. And then all of a sudden that teacher's gone now too. And you have to ask yourself, why are we trying to set up our children for failure? Right? And me, like Kofi, Sadat, Dr. Vibe, our resumes are long when it comes to dealing with the black community. But for me to go into the Toronto District School Board, which I've been in for a number of years before I had children, for me to go to Peel District School Board, or York, or Durham, or Halton, it's like pulling teeth. You say, hey, I'd like to come in and talk to the kids because I have something that they would be interested in. Oh, well, you have to be vetted for the teacher by the principal. Okay, let it happen. I've been trying for years to get into the Toronto District School Board. And finally, just the other day, I got vetted, and I'm still waiting to get into the system so I can actually just go and speak to the kids and say, hey, you may want to do this in life. I'm a black person, and I would love to teach you what I do so you don't have to do this. Here's a way of you making money. Here's a way of you making money as a child, just voicing commercials, singing, doing podcasts, doing something else, testing games, whatever. And you get blocked. If you have if you still have a criminal record, you can't go into the jail system and talk to young offenders and say, hey, stop. The only, you know what I mean? The only time you can talk to them is if you're a convict, like them, you know, if you're a convict and they get incarcerated and now you're both in jail and now you get to talk to them.
The irony.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I mean? So when you look at this problem, one of the reasons why and let's not even talk about the issues we have with just raising our children if we break up with our ladies. Right? And how we get excluded from so many things. It's a bigger problem that we finally have to look at, and basically look at everybody in the room and look at the person in the mirror and basically say, you know what, hey, I can do more because, and it's something I learned in court many, many years ago. What is in the best interest of your children? And deal with the problem from that lens and forget everything else. If you just take the emotions out of it and say, what is in the best interest of our children, then we would not have some of the problems we do. Because the question I asked in that video more than in anything else was, how is it that this person has two parents and this child keeps leaving all the time and nobody saw this person? There's no anything things get put out so far in it, you know, whatever. If how are these kids, these older children, allowed to stay at school around our young people and nobody says anything about it? Like, I had so many questions. But sorry, you know,
and I think what also came out in the documentary is that people have a stereotype that all these missing Black boys are coming from impoverished neighborhoods, right? But it brought light, you know, and I know, you know, Kofi can identify with this, you know, growing up in that part of the city, but Ajax, Pickering, Durham, right? And I think part of it, we've always said, is that, you know, you might have two parents, but if those two parents have to work so hard just to keep that roof over your head, there's a lack of supervision and connection, right? And like you were talking about Thunder Bay earlier, and I haven't been there, I can't speak to it, but I find a lot of times in the burbs, there is a lack of things for young people to do. There are a lack of spaces. There's challenges around transportation. You know, once school is let out, you're really on your own, right? And I know a lot of young people who experience that as well, right? So I think it creates an environment, you know, that leaves young children vulnerable to, you know, older folks that may not have their best interest. So just to kind of, you know, clarify that as well, I think that's why you find, you know, in those areas, there's a lot of youth crime and stuff like that, because the resources and the sources that could even engage them really don't exist out there. And then the money part is real. Just because I live in a big house or I live in the burbs doesn't mean that we have money, right? A lot of times you have less disposable income living in those environments because, you know, we're working, you know, hand to mouth, just trying to keep the rent up. And if we're being honest, most of us are not, right? So yeah, I think that there was some valid points. So I'm gonna kick it back to Dr. Vibe. I want to get into some of the questions. I know we have a lot of comments. I see.
I know we got, and I'm already thinking we may need to do a part 2 already, because I think that well, let's go to some of the comments we've got going on first. So first up, we have from YouTube. Someone saying, I saw the documentary launch live last Wednesday at the Ajax, I think, Community Center. I think I was fruitful that finally, after a year of watching flyers all over Western Road, bakery windows, Jane Church, bus shelters, Wilson Post. BMW Lake says, to be honest, there isn't a lot of difference between Thunder Bay and rural Saskatchewan. It's all to hustle. It's just that the locations have changed. Nicole says here, excuse me, I interviewed a biz entrepreneur, father the age of you all summer, whose son had gone missing in May. I saw him in early January. Youth was still unfound. My church did a lot of community. I don't know what you have us there. Nicole says work with youth in this area, but it ended because parents weren't showing up to support the children. Shulish CSIPP says 100 to the conversation. Then there's a number of questions. Well, here's a conversation. Best interest of the children is subjective. Juice Man, you made that comment. Do you want to respond to that at all?
I mean, I know he's going to respond to it, but I don't really think it's to get into it, to be honest, Juice Man, because what does subjectivity mean, right? I agree with your point. Like, if it's not for the best interest of your child, then who is it for, right? So, you know, to get into that, I don't know, but it's up to you.
I'm good.
Right?
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something quickly before Jonathan goes, just to plant a quick seed here that I didn't realize we should have done in the opening of the show. I'm going to pour libation at one point. So maybe after Brother Jonathan speaks, because something's telling me that there's a need. So we'll go ahead, brother.
The one thing that I wish we would do as a people, and I'm going to say it again, is take the emotion out of the equation and deal with what do we need to share, release, and forgive in order to be free, and deal with the problem at hand, and that is bringing back our young boys, and in a lot of cases, bringing back our young girls. Because one of the things that I have done outside of this forum is write commercials on human trafficking. And the numbers in human trafficking, which is a whole other conversation, are skyrocketing. And we can sit here and talk about the subjective nature with this thing and dissect it and point fingers and whatever the case may be, but I will say what I said at the beginning. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, that could be your young son or young daughter who was taken away for whatever reason. And I don't ever want to think about that. I don't want that for my worst enemy, because I've seen too many children in this system. And Dr. Vibe, you were there. You were there where I pleaded with young 12 and 13-year-old boys, because there was a young boy who was at an event called Stand Up, and they featured him on the news along with another young boy. One was a rapper, very, very talented. He could have been the next whoever. And they had a poet. Fast forward to 2015. The rapper gunned down in front of his house. And the picture they showed of that young boy was me standing with him at the stand-up conference when he was 12, 13. The other young boy, who was a poet, he was on stage at City Hall for the Pan Am Games. That's all I'm going to say on that. So if we want to talk about what's in the best interest of the child, I want to see them become adults. I want to see them become grandparents. I want them to tell stories. I want them to understand what it's like, you know, just to be a person in our society, to be able to talk about us 50 years from now and say, hey, I remember when the ancestors said this. I don't want to be going to a viewing or looking at a leaflet or myself handing out paperwork that says, here's another one of us missing. And again, certain areas of this country, we're not, the population of Black people is, goes up by 1 and decreases by 1 as we go inside the city limits. It's not very hard to find us. but they're out there, and even the people in that area don't care about us enough to say they're here.
Kofi Morris, you want to do libation?
Facts, what you just shared, Brother Jonathan. Yeah, I'm going to call a couple names, and if you have any names that come to mind that are specific to some of these young Black boys who transition, because the thing is, African traditions, we forget that just because you're physical, you transcended in your physical, your spirit lives on. And the reality is, even on some of these blocks, and from some of these blocks where some of these young men have come from, there's a lot of lost souls roaming. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of lack of closure in families and in these neighborhoods, and that's a spirit, that's the energy that exists in our communities. So I'm glad you said what you just said, Jonathan, as well, because if, as people that tap into the emotions and show their emotions, we're not cold people. We are people that have to actually digest, work through, and try to find some form of, even if it's not closure, but some form of understanding based upon community connection that allows us to feel still connected, even though we're disconnected from our children or from those who have transcended. So being able to pull together and hold that unity that we talk about that's needed, that also can help to heal some of those wounds, right? So what is libation, right? Libation is a form of prayer. It's a form of giving thanks and giving back, acknowledging those who've come before us and the shoulders that we stand on, and also acknowledging those that we call our ancestors who have transcended, that are no longer with us in the physical. We call upon their names, because just like if you were in a community and you did work and you played a role, etc., and you moved from that community, you'd still want to be remembered. You still want people to call your name. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to pour some water into this plant. Plant represents life and the ability to acknowledge our connection to this earth. They say, we came from it and we return from it. And I'm just going to do a call and response. I'm going to say, Ago. And Ago in trees, West African language, means I have something to say. I need your attention. And if I have your attention, you're going to say, Ame. So we're going to start, and at the end, you just call upon those names. Now, even if they're not names of these young people, but they're names of people who have transcended, who did amazing work in our community, that can actually, what they stood for could help us in this moment. We can also say their names at that point. I'm going to say Agu.
Ame.
Agu.
Ame.
Agu.
Ame.
Brian, we want to call upon Spirit. We want to ask that you strengthen and empower both this conversation and future conversations, but also future activity and action that will help to address some of the root causes of the healing that must take place in our community, but also creating safe spaces for young Black men and our young sisters. I'm going to say Ashe. After, as we come together as brothers and community, we continue to hold and create these safe spaces for young Black men to be seen, to be felt, to be heard, so that they can continue their divine destiny and their purpose. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
You pour this water, every ounce of this water that's being put into this plant acts as a form of nourishment for those who transcended, that no longer with us, so that they remember that they're welcomed. We say Ashe. To call upon the names of those who are no longer with us, in which we want to acknowledge. And I'm going to call upon a brother named Aju Iroga, who was a Nigerian brother who we knew in high school. That I was recently in an airport and I saw someone that looked like him. And I had to do a double take. And it reminded me of the fact that this brother went missing in 2006. Never found. There was a $50,000 reward for his life, and he was never found. And he wasn't involved in anything. He was part of a work program. And long story short, he went missing, and they never found him. And again, we're acknowledging those who have now become Black bodies, whose lives and names have not been called. So I call upon Brother Adu that your spirit is at peace. Yeah, open up the circle for any names that brothers want to call.
My cousin, Kathleen Johnson. I don't know where she is.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure. course, I like to call on the spirit of Louis March, just in the fact that he had done so much work to support many of our young people who are in similar predicaments, that are vulnerable, and their parents as well. So I want to definitely, acknowledge the ancestor Louis March.
The ancestor, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, did much work when it comes to, talking about anything that the Black community needed. I call upon, and there's way too many to name, all the female Black poets that I have listened to and taken their names. Want to call on Roberta Flack, probably one of my favorite songs, Be Real Black to Me.
Mm-hmm.
That song, whenever I'm in pain, I listen to that.
Brother Dudley Laws, that's fought for the Black Defense Committee, that fought for our community, educated himself, rose above the ranks, and opened up doors for so many others to come and do amazing work. That ability to form the FIU, Special Investigation Unit, that still exists here in Toronto. These are the things that are needed and necessary to hold police accountable in scenarios and circumstances that affect our community and others. Charlie Roach, Mr. Sherwana Hall.
Eva Smith, creating Eva's Initiative. For those who don't know, it was a Black woman that started Eva's, which is a homeless shelter and much more for vulnerable young people in the city. And definitely knowing that it was a safe place to be housed, accepted, to learn skills, to again sometimes work with our most vulnerable, because we don't really see them, right? We only see the keeners and those who are going to school and doing well and whatnot. But Sister Eva Smith, our ancestor, really was able to shine light and create a space and not just talk about things, but actually do something about something that's not just impacting young Black people, but young people throughout the city.
Donald Willard Moore, who is basically the godfather for bringing almost all the people from different places in the world here to Canada, and asked the government of Canada to change the immigration laws to allow, Black people and people of color to migrate to this country of Canada in a time where British subjects that came from countries that had a predominance of Black people were not considered British subjects under the Commonwealth.
Shay.
To go back to call upon the spirit of Sister Harriet Tubman for the commitment of going back and forth, for our people here. Sometimes we forget the impact she made. Moses, aka Moses Araminta. So we're gonna call upon her for that, the fight, and not giving up the fight for the freedom of our people as we continue to fight for that liberation today. Our ancestors, and whose names that we don't know, who are transcended in some of these examples that we've given, but also who are freedom fighters for our people, so we can continue to utilize the resistance in our spirit, that's in our lungs, in our heart, in our bones, that we don't give up in the midst of all of the anger, the frustration, and the challenge and the sadness that comes. Lost. Just to put on some words out there for what it is that we need now as a community.
Yeah.
And you could just say those words out loud. I'm going to say unity.
I want to say Stan Kofa. I think there's so much, and I want to acknowledge More Jobs 9853 for putting out the ancestor, Dr. Koranjufu, who did so much remarkable work around Black boys. And I think some of that is lost, and some of that's what's needed now to go back and see some of those lessons, those great works that were put out, and bring those lessons forward. So definitely Jawanza Kanjufu, Conspiracy to Destroy the Black Boy, the series, great book and great collection of books. So yeah.
All the individuals who worked with the ROPE program over the years, Rites of Passage initiative that tries to turn young boys into young men, and also liaison with their parents to sign a contract to say, we want these young boys to become men, where we put them in suits, where we learn and teach them how to tie a tie, how to fill out a resume, get computers, whatever it may take to turn young boys into men. Ashe.
And I don't know, Kofi, if I can take it in a direction, because you actually hit a point that I want us to talk about, Brother Jonathan, which
relative to libation, because we're close here, and then we'll continue.
Oh yeah, go ahead. So go ahead.
So just putting out there what it is that we need as a community,
and
then
the chat it says redemption. So I'm just gonna pull some what people are saying. So they say we need redemption.
It's a passage. Exposure.
Healing.
Peace. Self-love, someone said.
Grace.
Understanding. Open
Forgiveness. Forgiveness would be a major one.
Ability to overcome the odds and the things that maybe work against us in the work that we have to do, knowing that it would impact pocketbooks, it would impact people's lives, it would impact people's livelihood as they look at it. If we were to actually solve some of these issues in our community, so we ask for that ability to break through those challenges to be successful.
So at Faith Pathway is saying we need to push education. Yeah, there's
and remembering, somebody said,
yep,
all those things in our hearts.
I like the way that it was worded, and then remembrance. I like the way that was worded.
Any of those things unsaid that are in our hearts, in our minds, and our spirit, as we continue to hold this collective vibration of healing and empowerment and connection in our community. Yeah, and all these things we say Madasi, which means thank you. We say Madasi, Madasi Pa. We say yo. We clap, 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 clap. It's finished. It is finished. It is finished. It is finished, and it is good. Monika-san. Monika-san. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, family. Thank you, community. For those that are in their spaces right now, and just remembering again the lives of the young people, remembering the roles that they played, remembering how they made you feel. And please take some time to say their names. Take some time to light a candle. Take some time to remember some of those who, like our brother Jay Legit, like our brother Kadar, like our brother Sumo, people who we won't forget them because of, again, the role that they played while they were here and the seeds that they planted to show us. All three of those brothers that I mentioned actually were involved in things like music, which is one of the areas that you see it's so divine. Jonathan is on here as a DJ because we talk about the impact of healing in our community through music and through dance and through movement. And that's how we deal with some of the stuff that we're holding on to. So we ask that we continue to play the songs that they liked. Understand? Dance and move, come together, hold collective positive vibrations, because it's not just about the pain and the grief and the loss, but it's also the acknowledgement and the remembrance of who they were, so that we can continue to actualize some of the vision that they had that was put in them to give to us, right? So we can still call upon those gifts, those talents, help to create healthy, positive vibrations for our young people, because there's some of them that are on the brink of deciding if they're getting involved in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these things will bring them in to make them feel at home and seen, so that things like open mics and things like, talent showcases and all this stuff where young people can come and speak, you can hear their voices, is important. So giving thanks.
Yeah. And I wanted to touch the other part around, when, the only part that really sometimes gets me hot, but I understand it, because right now we're hurt as a community, and we're missing our Black boys. But I think the part that I said I feel kind of sometimes upset at is that people begin to start blaming the parents, and then also blaming the older youth that might have led some of these young people into very bad situations. And I think the thing with blaming the parents is that that's the easy scapegoat, but we don't want to look at the societal things, the circumstances that impact not just the young people, but also the parents. So things such as poverty, racism, white supremacy, what I mean, trying to your best to balance being there for your child while knowing that you have to work super hard to try to keep the roof above your head, put food on the table. Some folks are dealing with mental health, whether it's their child or themselves, or so we have so many factors that just simply blaming the parents is an easy way, because nothing I've seen that says, hey, these parents were wayward or whatnot, but they're just circumstances that impact, and it's similar to when we look at our indigenous brothers and sisters, and someone might say, hey, these guys are just on drugs or they're on the street or whatnot, but nobody wants to look at the trauma, historical trauma that impacts your everyday reality. So again, those are the things that and I would put out there, as Kofi were mentioning, one word I would say definitely is to give grace. I know you talk about that all the time, Dr. Vibe, as well, but to give grace to these families that are being impacted with this, and also grace to some of I know it's hard, but giving grace to some of the young men, the older ones that have been misled, that are in the muckiness, right? And they say hurt people, right? So I would like to see more attention around how we can reach out to some of those folks who are, quote unquote, in that leadership role, and deal with them as well. Because I think if we were able to talk to some of those folks that are leading the youngers astray, and we can have an impact on them, then obviously less young Black boys are going to be led away, less young Black women are going to be led away, because less, kind of getting more conscious about, what their actions are doing, the full impact, and then some of the things that we talk about, what are real. Like, people are out there trying to survive, trying to make money, but what are we doing, or what can we do collectively to help support young people, to give them different economic opportunities, right? You talked about it, Jonathan, around, hey, some might be music, some may want to do a podcast, some might have a different talent, but what are we doing to first hear that, like what would they want to do, and then second, how can we support those pieces, right? So I think, we need to shift away from blame, and then more get to that point where we actually are trying to support and address some of the issues that we know have been going on for a very long time. Like, I was speaking to one of my sons, and he's like, yeah, I see, the CBC and other people talking about it now, but it's like, Dad, this has been happening for a minute, even from my days as a teenager and a young. right? Like young black boys being led out to Sudbury, Thunder Bay, going out west, right? This has been happening for a minute. It's just like, just because the news is shining on it doesn't mean, it's not something that's been, systemic for a very long time. We know young people that have gone up to Thunder Bay, have got into that and stuff like that. So, it's, even though the light is being shined right now, I think there's some deep systemic issues that nobody really wants to talk about. And, I think that's kind of where I want to shine the light, around how can we overcome some of these challenges through support and not through shaming people. Yeah.
Huge.
One thing that, while all of you have been talking about, that I've been thinking about is, and you mentioned parents. I know for myself, I'm a totally different parent to each one of my children because they got a different version of me as they grew up.
Mm-hmm. True.
I'm able to do more with my son than I was able to do with my first child, as I was able to do differently with my second child, because all three of them got a different version of me. And it just made me think, about the parents out there where somebody would say, well, where was the parents in this? Well, you know what? Maybe when they had their first child, certain things were happening in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when they had their second child, something else was happening in their life. Maybe they have a child who is special needs and have to give that child more attention than they do to the last child.
True.
Maybe the government isn't dealing with the medical issues with somebody who has sickle cell, and that parent has to work another job to be able to buy medication or whatever the case may be for that child. And there's always something that the parents have to deal with their child. Maybe the court system does not allow that person to see that child, and they could be that person. We don't know. And instead of shining a lens at the parents, shining a lens at the system, shining a lens at the children, let's shine a lens at the whole problem and attack it in the same way ants would attack, a piece of meat or a piece of sugar, something that they see. And that is from all sides. And just try to move it and deal with it collectively. We are a collective, and we seem to forget that at times. We're not an island on our own. We are seen as, unfortunately, the Black community, whether we want to be a part of it or not, because that's unfortunately the world sees us. They don't care if you're Jamaican. They don't care if you're African. They don't care if you're, from Scotia. They look at us all the same way. And they look at it and say, look at them. How come they can't get their stuff together? How come they can't do this? How come they, whatever? And they also look at us and say, well, hey, don't you see how together they are? They're all marching because of this person. So it's this way some ways and this way another way. But the problem that still remains, whether the problem started so long ago, what are we going to put in place to fix the situation? Right? How can, and this is something I've been saying more often, how can I support you? Not provide for you.
Yep. Support. Yep.
But how can I support you? Because providing for you sometimes is just a band-aid. Oh, you need some money for this? Okay, fine. I'm going to throw some money at that. Hey, I'm going to do this, whatever. It's just basically like, giving a man a fish as opposed to teaching a man how to fish. We need to be a little bit more interested in the collective. Yes, we should put the oxygen mask on ourselves. It is very important we do that. However, we still have to show each other as you were saying, grace, and sometimes empathy, and to check in on our brothers and sisters and say, how are you doing? And how are your children doing? That's something we used to do.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember as well, too, these young boys during a critical time in their development did not know how to develop like other brothers and sisters did within our community, because they were not locked down for 777 days. And to this date, I have not seen a study on what that has done collectively to those individuals within our community. You know, there have been studies that have been done about how much money was lost and this and that, whatever. But
Sure.
my son is 13 years old, and he missed out on certain things because he was home. And now these children have conflict. How do they have a resolution? These children were taught to do their work on an iPad or a computer or a phone, but they don't know how to socialize with somebody who's sitting right beside them.
There you go.
So again, it's a multi-layered problem, but we also have to come up with some collective solutions.
So I want to jump in there quickly to speak to the parenting piece and education piece twofold very quickly. We spoke about bad versus good behavior, and I wanted to pull up something that has to do with approaches to education. So anybody that's familiar with the Montessori environments in Canada, and one of the things that the Montessori speak about is not a look at good or bad, but a look at skill building and self-regulation and natural consequences. A lot of our parents end up being introduced to their children through the lens of a teacher and a principal or a vice principal that speaks about bad behavior of their child and having to send them home and all of this stuff. And they start to get it in their mind of their child being bad or being good. But we're not talking about the behavior and disconnecting it from the identity of the child, right? And is the child overwhelmed? Is the child seeking attention? Is the child bored, hungry, anxious, overstimulated? Is there a separation in the home? All of these things are factors that lead to behavior in our children. And this starts young. So why I say Montessori is because this is like daycare age, some of these things. And these things have been broken down by some of these major outlets that we're talking about right now, by parents who start their day with their children in daycare in darkness. Because right now, as you know, early in the morning is dark, yes? So you leave your home, you bring your child to daycare in darkness. You pick up your child at 5, 6 p.m. in darkness. The environment that the child is in during those hours, is it conducive to them as an African child? Is it addressing their needs? This is from daycare family. So we're now dealing with the issue at 13 and 14, but you didn't realize it started at 6 years old when they didn't eat properly when they went to daycare. If you go to many of the daycares in this city, you're going to see maybe some I don't know if they still have Kool-Aid jammers. You'll see some Kool-Aid jammers. You're going to see some,
I hear you.
You're going to see some Toonie Tuesday leftover lunch, if that. Maybe
Lunchables that are cold.
Lunchables that are cold, maybe a patty. These are the things that are affecting the thinking of our children, and they're fighting at 4 and 5 years old. So Dr. Umar Johnson, these people, they talk about and break down these things, right? But just to say, how can we start approaching things differently as it relates to the growth and development of our children? And guess where it starts, family? In the womb. The food that's being given, the food that you're feeding your child from the womb, the environment, the music, the vibration. We talked about community. Listen, parents are not supposed to be raising their children on their own. We are communal people. Aunties, uncles, all of these people, grandparents would play a role so that it can ease some of the burden or the tension or the challenges of the parent who's working 9 to 5. Grandparents used to play a role. Sometimes we don't even have that anymore. So all of that ties into how the child is being born. So I'll shout out to brother Oliver. He does something called the Mindful Parenting Toolkit. You can check him out online. You can connect to other people that are doing work in that environment, child psychologists, things of that nature. We can plug some of this information again. You could reach out to us, folks, if you're looking for some of these resources at blackmencantalk@gmail.com, right? If you're looking for information, there are still private African-centered schools in the city that you can enroll your child as early as 5 years old right now, so that you can start to create a different environment for that child as they grow, right? Some of the young people we know that were involved in Afrocentric school environments, they have now risen in terms of their post-secondary education. Some of them are having children and families now. So we're at the point where let's look at the whole picture of this situation, but let's also get back to community and connection. And if you know someone in your community that you see struggling, you see single mothers struggling, you see whatever the case may be, maybe you can reach out. Maybe you can point them in the right direction. Connect them to us. There's initiatives we could connect them to. But let's start the healing from within, family, and let's do this work so that all these external entities don't have to come in and start telling us about our problems.
True. 100%. Great points. I love that.
Gentlemen, we could go on forever on this, and there are a pile of comments, and I'm going to selectively go through some of them. Is there an opportunity for us to continue this next week? Because I think there's questions that come from the Fifth Estate program that I'd like to ask our audience. So is there room for each one of you for part 2 for next week?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm selectively going to go through some comments. There's some questions, but if we ask them, we're going to go on till 3 o'clock in the morning, and someone still has to shovel snow. So I'm going to put this.
Sit out, man. Jeez, man.
Jonathan was the juice man was good until you mentioned that, bro. But go back.
All right. Faith Pathway says, I concur with this type of form for our young boys and men, something that is not dealt with enough. Thank you. Nicole, see, so Jonathan, what you were doing this morning, this is continuing on now. Look at this comment. Gentlemen, if you can help with your community and sports organizations that help Black youth, documentary director said there was no data on Black youth, read job status or anything. And Nicole says it's like they're a missing demographic. Nicole also says our community must work to ensure that they are seen advocating for and their presence and contributions are documented. Well, that's one of the reasons I do this. It's documented. Passes Shiluk, I know who that is, says AI literacy and tech literacy in general. We need to be net producers, not consumers. Also says, great point. The more supported our youth are, the less vulnerable they will be. BWM like says, empathy, yes, but we can't get stuck at empathy. Kofi Coach has some books that is recommended. So if you're watching this live on the replay, they're up on this screen. Nicole says, as the reporter from the movie that said that this is a Canadian problem, not simply a Black community problem, meaning all levels of government, education, community that edify and protect children. And then BWM says, sorry, at times, and in some instances, quote, blame and shame, unquote, had its place, and it was one of the effective tools that we use to install a degree of self and collective respect. Okay, we're going to stop there. I know there were some questions I know that some people had. Can
I mention one thing, please?
Go ahead.
To the parents of children, I can't say this loud enough. Whether it be on the first day of school or the last year of grade 12, do not miss an opportunity, and every now and again just drop by your child's school.
Ooh, come on now.
Walk through the front door and say, I want to see my son or my daughter, or I want to talk to the teacher or the guidance counselor, and just ask the question, how's my child doing? Be accountable. If they call you and you see the number from the school on your phone, answer the phone and say, what's going on? I know that we all come from the age of, children shouldn't call their parents on the phone if they bust their knee all the way down to the white meat. We never called our parents, because they were at work and whatever. But those days are gone. We need to be very much involved with our children, after school activities, homework, whatever it may be, yada yada yada, so that the school knows that we are watching them. Because if we do not get involved, you know what I mean? If you need to borrow a guy or a girl to make it look like that's the father, go do it.
Do it.
Or the moms, do it. Because if you need to bring your auntie, if you need to bring 10 people to parent-teacher meeting, do it. Because then they know that you ain't joking when it comes to the education of that child. These are 10 people who are like, okay, and you said what again about my child? Mm-hmm. Oh, you need somebody to help with the homework? Okay, that person, this person, whatever. That's the way we have to attack the problem. Because if they don't see you, they'll do whatever they want to do to that child. And, hey, we got to hold ourselves accountable. That's the only thing we need to do with our children. Not the only thing, but one of the things we need to do with our children is for us to be accountable to them.
Sure.
All right. We're going to stop it there. I know people have questions that were put in the chat. I'm speaking that when they'll be in the replay in the chat section, so I can copy them, and we'll just spend next week answering questions, whether from the audience. And I have at least 10 questions. This could be like a whole series in itself, and it may end up being a number of conversations to get all these points out there. So before we let everyone go, Juice Man, how can people get a hold of you?
Very easily. I'm on all platforms at Jonathan O'Shaw, JONATHAN, middle initial OSHAW, or info at JonathanOshaw.com, or through my website at JonathanOshaw.com. If you're forgetting any of those, thejuiceman.ca. And
also make sure, if you're watching this in England, the proper spelling of Jonathan.
What do you get?
That's an inside joke Juiceman and I know, but
if
people
you know. If you know, you know.
They don't spell it with the JONA. So we have one of our brothers that continually makes that error. Let's put error.
Everybody's like, hey, you get the email? What are you talking about? I've got the email.
Okay, so one last comment here. Nicole says Jonathan is correct. I'm a black girl who was raised in rural Canada by white parents.
That's what I'm talking about right there. See how they spelled the name?
There you go.
That's totally incorrect.
That's incorrect.
Who don't know about Jonathan? It's Jonathan. They got it mixed. They don't know.
White parents who had to advocate for me in the 70s education system. All right, good stuff. So if you want to get a hold of Kofi Sadat, there's the information. It's also the comment section of most of the places you're watching this live on replay. Also, Kofi Morris, the man with 2 Instagram handles. And then myself, you want to get a hold of me, toplink.cc/the DRVIBESHOW.com. If you want to watch replays of this epic conversation, the Dr. Vibe Show website, also YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the Dr. Vibe Show. Oh, that's my contact information. I got the wrong thing up. Sorry about that, family. Let me just correct that. Got too many stuff going on. Okay, just this is what we need to put up. If it will go up. Oh, there we go. Watch replays of BLKMEN Can Talk on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the Dr. Vibe Show website, and Paul Osbourne on Facebook. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Make sure you time block the same time next week, because we got to go in, because we got a lot of questions to answer and provide solutions for this. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. and always make it better. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. Walk good.
Then
Time that our parents, they're like, I have nothing to teach you. I don't know nothing. And they know
That's
so
my dad's at that point now. It says
That's my point.
But I'm saying, no, Dad, you got lots more to give. You know how cold it is when these two brothers in their yard.
You know that. You know that. You don't know that, bro. You know
no
that.
joke.
I know we all have these things, but you know what? My go-to is this thing.
Wow.
Black book.
Black book.
Men Talk, Black Book.